And I'm going to mute anyone. Okay, thanks for joining, everyone. Feel free to unmute yourself if you do have a question that you want to ask, but Lindy was supposed to do today's call and she just opened up her new practice in Utah and she has an open house today. So she's going to be on for next month's call and we are just kind of keeping it casual, talking through fat loss expectations. I feel like summertime is an interesting time and we've seen it with clients, we've seen it like with questions coming in on social media, we've seen it on the Zoom questions. And I think it's just like a common theme this time of year where pressure that we put on ourselves is very high, right? We are in less clothing most often in the summer. It's hot. We're at the pool, we're at the beach. We're gathering a lot. So we're maybe around a lot more people and we find ourselves comparing. Those types of things come up more. It just seems like in the summer. And then on the other side of that, we are gathering a lot more. We are outside of our normal routine for many of us, especially if you have children. You're trying to manage now like a lot more than maybe in the school year when you had kids in school and a schedule. I know I feel that like I still have the same workload, but now I have my kids home. I'm trying to be a fun mom. And I'm really scattered. And then we add gatherings and family visits and holidays on top of that. And it's like, it's hard to be consistent, right? When you have all those extra variables, but then you also have the extra pressure that we often put on ourselves this time of year. And it can make for a lot of just kind of that cognitive dissonance where I have found not a lot of clients, but some clients can feel that like, oh no, I'm failing here. I'm not moving towards my goals. I'm not seeing the progress that I want to see. And it can be really frustrating. Mom. Do you guys want to add on to that? Like answer her question real quick.
No, I feel the same, that I think when we start dragging out summer clothes, shorts, then it's like, oh shit, this is not the body that I was supposed to have this summer. And that really, and then I think we get disrupted with, maybe we've had a focus on, okay, long term, I'm focusing on this now, and that I have a focus for long term results, but then when that summer hits, it's like, oh, but I really want results now. So I think that's a kind of a mental struggle that is great to take with us, so that we can still keep our long-term results and aim. And then maybe, and this sounds something like no one wants to hear, but like, okay, we are where we are. We're not going to see any drastic results anyways. Like, we have to follow the plan, and then next summer you're going to look exactly like you want. Like, that's the plan. Because if we are heading into June and you're still not where you want to be, yes, if you continue being consistent in August, we can have a lot happening. But at the same time, if consistency or things change a lot, then we also have to be aware that, okay, maybe progress will be a little slower because consistency can be harder. So just always work with reality, and like, okay, what is possible for me, where can I put my focus, and just continue like focus on what you were focusing on in April, basically.
Yeah, and I think like Henrietta said, being realistic and thinking through, okay, if I want to see like significant body composition change, that's going to take, like, being realistic, that's probably going to take about 6 months or longer, right? It just depends. But I think really like visually, maybe in about 3 months, like I always feel a good rule of thumb is in about 3 months, like you start to notice that physical change, and about 6 months, other people start to notice that physical change. And this is with being consistent, right? And so, yeah, we can speed that up and do it a little bit faster and be more aggressive, but there's always a cost there, right? So the cost might be making a lot more sacrifice in your life to make that happen. Like cutting out social gatherings, bringing your food places, getting in extra workouts, all of those things. Or it might mean, okay, I'm going to make a little bit of change here and I'm going to incorporate these habits and I'm going to expect that like half pound to a pound of fat loss per week. I'm just going to be consistent. It's going to be manageable and more sustainable. And then that's going to look like longer timeline, but you can also do it for longer, right? And so deciding, do I want to be more aggressive and really push here? And I have the capacity mentally and emotionally to handle being hungrier, to handle being tired from doing more workouts, to like really push that physique change? Or what, like, time's going to go by either way. Can I take the time and can I be patient? And can I incorporate this in a, I don't want to say a more healthy way, but a more manageable way of just, all right, I'm going to make a slight decrease on calorie intake. So I'm in a deficit here, a slight increase titrating like my non-exercise activity, my cardio up. Then I'm going to see consistent fat loss, but it's going to be really manageable. I can still go to family gatherings. I can like maybe readjust my day and like still go out and go on date nights and do different things. And I don't have to like schedule my workouts in. I can keep those as low as possible to like elicit a response, but that's going to take time. And I think oftentimes we want the results of that aggressive approach, but we can't like put in that aggressive output. And it's, most people can't, like most of us aren't 22 years old where the world revolves around us and like we have, you know, all the time in the world. Most of our clients are in their 30s, I would say for the most part, and have a lot of life demands from like jobs to kids to relationships. And so we need to be realistic when we set our goals and our timelines and recognize that like a year is going to go by either way. So would you rather put in the work and be consistent at something and see that small incremental change happening? Or do you want to keep doing these extreme options and coming back to where you ground zero every time because they're just not sustainable with everything you have in your life right now?
And I think remembering also what you said now, Michaela, this is if your body is ready for a deficit, if your body is ready for a fat loss phase. And that's not always the case. So you can't really, you can rush a reverse, but then the possibility of gaining fat in the reverse is, you know, a lot bigger. So this, if we are doing something more extreme, that's the only way we can do that is if your body's actually in a place where it's ready for
100%. Yeah. And what does that mean? Like to put your body in that place, like, what does that look like? Right. I mean, I think you guys probably know, I mean, I know my team knows, but just looking at everyone on the call, when we talk about that, like earning a fat loss phase, sometimes you'll hear people say that. What does that mean exactly? Do you guys want to add in on that? I'm gonna summer, yay.
Does it just mean like you've been in a maintenance phase long enough to like for your body to be at homeostasis and be able to handle like the slow deficit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Consistency.
Yeah, you need to be able to be consistent with hitting your calorie goal, hitting your protein goal, hitting your fiber goal, and you know, sitting in that place. And like you said, especially if you're coming from a place where you know your calories are really low, it's really hard to stay consistent. Your body did adapt to that lower intake. But yeah, you have to be able to be consistent at a higher intake because it's going to be a lot easier to be consistent at a higher intake versus when you do enter a fat loss phase, you are going to be a little bit hungry. You are going to have to make more sacrifices and it's just harder to be consistent. So it's really hard to just jump into a fat loss phase when you haven't really built those habits yet.
Yeah,
I'm really big on mindset. And I think that for the most part, when people start tracking, it is to restrict. We track when we want to restrict what we're getting in or control what we're getting in terms of restriction. But it's a beautiful place to be when you are at maintenance, tracking, learning about your portion sizes and learning about how much food you can eat on a regular basis and how great you can feel from it. So it is, you can build a really good foundation with doing that as well.
Yeah, and I feel like so many, I was thinking about Tabitha, I see you're here on the call today, and Tabitha has worked with me for, what is it? Is it 1.5 years or over a year at least? And she's lost almost 30 pounds now, like done a reverse long time, been in maintenance for a very long time. I think we're in our second deficit right now. And she has seen so great just recomping from the reverse periods and maintenance periods. And of course, she, as everyone else, wanted results quickly, but also understood, you know, how important it was to do this in a way that was sustainable. And it's, for me as a coach, it's so rewarding to see, like, over a year later, see that everything, all of the hardship and going through, you know, demands in life, and like still being able to be consistent most of the times, even if it hasn't been perfect. And, you know, some periods have been more consistent with movement and some less, and, you know, but based off of what's going on in life. But just looking back now, it's just, yeah, it's just so rewarding and amazing to see how, just looking at the big picture and being consistent. And now, like, she's nailing targets. It's not, even though it's life's crazy. And that was something we worked a while, you know, to get there. You know, you don't do that week 2 or week 3. Like, it takes time. And then when we have, you know, really focused on all of those, you know, important basics for, you know, quite some time, and then maybe focusing on one thing, focusing on 2, focusing on 3, and then at the same time giving grace, and maybe feeling like, okay, we can always focus on 3, 4 at the same time. There maybe will always be one thing that is a little bit off, but as long as we can have consistency with most things for a really long time, results will come. Like, that's just how it is. And if they don't come, of course, then it's something really off that we need to look deeper into. But I just feel, yeah, like with Tabitha here, I feel, oh, it's so worth it, like, to just be consistent. And then, yeah, maybe you didn't lose 30 pounds in 3 months, but, you know, that's basically not possible. But 1.5 later, because you know, stuck to it, you have lost it. And it's not been a deficit for 1.5 years. It's been reverse. It's been maintenance. It's been, you know,
Periods.
Yeah. So
learning to love the process of each.
Can I jump in real fast and tell you it's 40 pounds?
Wow. 40 even.
Yeah, it's 40. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in and say 40, not 30.
That's incredible.
My God. Okay.
Just gonna
Even
say, like,
better.
yeah, learning to love the process about each one, because, like, with Tabitha, you probably noticed that each different phase, there was something that you enjoyed about it, like maintaining. You have more flexibility for social events. Maybe during the reverse, you know, you're learning about what your body responds really well to. You're able to push in your workouts more. In the fat loss phase, it's fun because it's a new challenge, and it takes a little bit more mental focus and mental toughness to get through. And you're seeing changes, you know, a little bit faster because it is, you know, you are in a calorie deficit, but there is something positive to take away about each one of those phases. So, like, focus on that and not think about yeah, it's good to think about the timeline, and it does take time, but really putting it all into each of your phases and focusing on what is good right now, you know, that's important too, because it's going to make you want to continue to do that and continue to be consistent if you can find the joy of the phase in life that you are in right now.
Yes, I love that. And I think that is so often, like, undervalued for people. A lot of times when clients start, they, you know, I'd say most often we work with a lot of women, like, they want to lose body fat. That seems to be like one of the main goals when everyone comes in. And so embracing a reverse is like, you know, oftentimes I'll hear, like, I am not hungry. Like, I just can't eat more food. It's too hard. And I can't relate to that at all, because I could always eat. Like, you want me to eat another 2,000 calories just before bed? Like, no problem. I can do that in about 30 minutes. Let alone throughout my whole day eating more food, right? And just a little bit more. So that one's always funny to me, because I think it is so mental. And I think oftentimes if you're so programmed to, like, choose the low cal version of something, or, like, yeah, it is really hard to need another 2,000 calories if I'm only doing it with, like, egg whites and vegetables. Or even if I'm not allowing myself to have, like, a bagel or whatever it is, right? Like I know how to adjust my food volume based on my calories. And I'm kind of doing the opposite of that right now. I've been slowly decreasing as I prep for this show. And it's been really manageable because I haven't gone like 700 calorie drop right out the gate. It's been like 100 calories, 200 calories, 50 calories, another 50, just kind of inching it down to where I'm like, okay, normally I have rice here. I'm going to do half rice, half cauliflower. And then I'm going to do all cauliflower. And then I'm going to just do veggies with cauliflower or whatever it is. Like I'm just slowly making little adjustments. So it makes it really easy and it not such a big life change. And then same with in a reverse, I'm so excited for when I get to go into a reverse because that's an opportunity to where like, I'm going to feel like right now I'm able to get really lean and that's fun. And it's cool to see muscles and it's cool to like see my physique shape coming together with what I've been working on with different aspects in the gym. And like, that's all really fun, but I'm equally as excited for a reverse after my show because that means way more flexibility at gatherings. Like I don't have to think about food as much. I have way more energy throughout the day, better quality sleep. My workouts will still be like the same, but I'm going to be able to give so much more and feel so much better in my training sessions. And really grow, like build muscle in the way that I want to. And it's just going to be easier. So, and then all the foods that I'm missing, I'm very excited to bring those back in. And then for me, I don't know what my goals are next, but for most people, it's like, they don't really think through that maintenance. Like just maintaining your progress is going to be so much easier than when you're in a fat loss phase. So I think sometimes people feel discouraged, like, oh gosh, this is hard. I can't do this forever. And that's why a fat loss phase should be short and focused so that when you are committing to doing it, like we're all in, we're going, we're getting in and we're getting out so that you can maintain in that more flexible caloric intake range. And just that's where the joy is, I think, of like seeing success with a fat loss phase and then being able to maintain it. We don't want you to start your fat loss phase maybe in the summer. Maybe summer is a great time for you, but let's just say most people started in June and life is crazy and you are frustrated because you're not seeing progress, but you're also not consistent. And then that causes you more stress, right? And so instead, if you're feeling like, oh, okay, I'm looking at my bar graph and like, you know, for our clients, we have nutrition goals that we'll set. And on the app, there's a bar graph and you can see if you're within 10% of your goal that we set, you'll have yellows. So you can easily look at your bar graph and see like, oh, I have no yellow days. Like I'm not consistent. Or maybe like I didn't even log a few of the days last week, right? You can see that. And if you're not one of our clients, you can easily see that just on like my Fitness Pal, looking at your average intake and daily intake. And you can see that you're not being consistent. So if that's the case, instead of continuing to just like try and have it not come together and continue to get frustrated with yourself, if you're not hitting your habits, like use that as an opportunity to just reflect, like, okay, hold on, life's crazy right now. I do want to see these fat loss goals. Like what's going to happen if I push those out 6 months? And right now I just work on like really setting myself up well for that next phase. So that means my calorie intake is high enough that I can be flexible at gatherings, but I'm going to prioritize protein. I'm going to make sure I don't miss breakfast so that I overeat later in the day. I'm going to like set those habits in place with my meals. I'm going to focus on getting more vegetables. I'm going to get good sleep. I'm going to be moving throughout the day. Like maybe I can set a step goal or a water goal and just set myself up really well so that come fall, when I'm in a little bit more of like a schedule that I can depend on, then I can plan out my meals. I can make sure I can hit that lower calorie intake and I can feel really good pushing a fat loss phase, potentially before the holidays, right? So that maybe you can reverse out if you're someone that gathers a lot during the holidays and you maybe don't want to be in a fat loss phase. So I don't think you need to like seasonally cut and reverse and maintain and like plan that out throughout the year. But I think it's important to look at your life over the next year and think through, okay, when is the best time to add this stressor of a fat loss phase so that I can be really successful there and like stay accountable to my goals.
And also remember, like, if you do start a fat loss phase, like you feel like you can handle it, but then you're realizing, oh, maybe I'm not that consistent, or maybe it's not as important to me as I thought it was. I'd rather be social or be more flexible with going out with kids. Like, it's okay to change your goal. Like, you don't have to just be stuck and try to, like, just because you said you were going to do a fat loss phase, like you absolutely have to do it. If you're not going to be consistent, then you're not going to get the results that you want anyways. So it's just remember, it's okay to change your goal.
That's what adults do. That's a very adult thing to do, right? And I think it's important to recognize that you're not quitting. You are still working on being a better, healthier, version of yourself. Like you're prioritizing your health and your physique and your goals. And that means having more balance in this stage, in this season of life, so that you can attack those goals and feel really good doing that. So like, I think it's important to remember too, if you're not in a fat loss phase right now, that doesn't mean you aren't crushing it in many areas of your life. Like fat loss doesn't equal success, So just remember, what does success look like for me right now? Like, how can I support myself internally from a health standpoint, and then also like work towards my goals? So maybe fat loss isn't in the cards for me right now. So I'm going to use like that extra food and fuel that I'm getting from these gatherings and different things. And like, I'm going to push my workouts and like really get excited about building muscle and having extra energy throughout the day, and having that flexibility. So I think just, like Sam said, finding the positives in the stage that you're in and thinking about like, what's realistic habit wise in this stage, so that you can just be consistent. Because if you can be consistent, then you're being accountable to yourself. And that feels so good to set habits and be accountable to those habits. And I think oftentimes when we start something new, like a health focused habit, and we do it for a couple of weeks, like our physique in 2 weeks, it doesn't really change, right? But we all of a sudden we're getting dressed and like looking in the mirror and like you feel like, I'm looking good right now. And really like nothing's changed except for you being accountable and trusting yourself and like feeling that confidence that comes from doing that. And so I think that's where, just as important as it is, I think, to like buy different sized clothes if your body is a different size and like feel good in the current state that you're in, it's important to adjust your habits based on where your life is at right now, so that you can still feel that consistency of checking things off and like staying accountable to yourself and your goals. So that might look like 10,000 steps 1 month, and it might be 6 another month, but like you're checking it off and you're getting your steps in because you're prioritizing your non-exercise activity. You're just titrating the goal based on your life.
And you have to remember, like, what you show in your fat loss phase is like what you build during maintenance and during maybe a slight plus. Like you might do fat loss phase, but then realize like you're not revealing many muscles because you didn't add that muscle tissue there. So like each phase, like I said, there's a purpose. So kind of focus on the purpose, focus on the why. But yeah, you need to be able to be okay with maybe adding a little bit more body fat than you'd like, but remembering like that muscle tissue is going to be there. Yeah, that's what you want.
But I also think like, and also all of the body change that can happen during a reverse and maintenance, that's incredible. And that, I was thinking about Carrie, I see you here, like what we experienced before we even got into a deficit with Carrie is like a huge change in her pictures. That was just from reverse and maintenance. Like that is also, for me, that's super thrilling every time, because we don't even need a fat, you don't
need a calorie deficit.
It's completely fine, but like there's so much change you can see on your body, like physically, not just feel on your body, but physically see on your body without even talking about a fat loss phase. And I think most people aren't aware of that. So that is something like, that's our job to tell, like, okay, we can see, I can't promise you anything, but most likely we're going to see change even before, because, telling a client that, we can go into a fat loss phase in a year. No one wants to hear that. But if I say, we will most likely see some good change within that year, then it suddenly seems a little bit more, thrilling to wait for, so to speak. And then when we then start the deficit, it's like, shit, now I'm hungry and like I'm eating maybe way more than I ever done. and I'm super hungry, and this wasn't fun. Like, I loved being in maintenance, for example. Like, that's the goal I feel for all clients, that and that's why we have to spend a good amount of time in that reverse and maintenance, because if you can get to a state where you love to be there, like, hello, long-term results. Like, it's just, if you can be consistent over time, you're gonna see progress.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool. I love data. So like for me, looking back, and this is something I've been meaning to share on social media, because I think it's so fun to see data and like that the input that you're putting in and what the output is there. And for me, like I spent after the games really, and like with kind of really like pushing hard on the work side, like I wasn't able to focus as much on my nutrition, but I was lifting and being consistent with some things in that way. And I had maintenance or a surplus of calories like over that year and a half. And it was cool to see I put on like 8 pounds of muscle during that year and a half. So then when I went into this next fat loss phase, I was able to see all that muscle that I built. And so it was like not even really intentional putting on that muscle, but it was so cool to see just from having those consistent habits of like pushing myself with my workouts, because I love to do that. And that consistent increase in intake, I built muscle. I also put on a little bit of body fat as well. And that was fine. Like I wasn't worried about that, but I set myself up really well to when I did have the capacity energy wise and like mentally and emotionally to move into a fat loss phase. I was able to fully commit to that because I was in a good place and I'd given myself, like, I wasn't trying to like aggressively cut throughout that year and a half when life was busier. I just embraced the stage that I was in and embraced putting on more tissue, mostly lean tissue. And then it's fun to move into a fat loss phase. It is a stressor. You are like, you have to plan, you have to pre-log, you have to do all these things to be successful, like consistency wise there. But you have like the resiliency to do that because you've put in the work to prime yourself to get there. And then it is fun to see that muscle revealed too. So if you are at a point where like, you need to reverse diet right now and bring calorie intake up, just embrace the process. Like make sure if you do want to build muscle, be on a plan that you can progressively overload week to week. And like, you can push yourself in the gym and really enjoy that flexibility, like have more calorically dense foods. All of your meals don't need to be super high volume. I'm not a huge fan of eliminating anything unless we know like, okay, that causes you digestive issues or that you don't feel good when you eat that. But like, for me, I love bagels. I would include those every single day. If like, as my calories come back up, I probably will, or pizza on the weekends or different things like that. I think having not like restricting yourself in that sense can make things way more sustainable too. And just know, I have a family member that thinks like they can't see progress if they eat bread. So it's like bread is like this huge villain to them. And they're always saying like, if I could just eliminate bread, then I would just feel better. And I'd see that fat loss that I've been going after. And they finally recently signed up for coaching with Sam actually. And we're able to see that like, oh, they can have bread every single day if they just pay attention to overall calorie intake. And what do you know, like 12 pounds lost in 12 weeks, like perfect, on track, fat loss, and like seeing, oh, bread's not the villain here. It's actually like the overall calorie intake that I'm eating throughout the day. So just, remembering that too, like if there's certain foods that you've avoided for years and years, and you think those foods like make you fat, a reverse is a really great opportunity to work on your relationship with food and test out. Like you don't need to add everything back in. That might feel scary, but like, what's one food? Like try adding that one food in. How do you feel? How does your body responding? Like, and just start to see that like, okay, that's why tracking your food intake can be so empowering, because you can just see the data and see, all right, if I increase or decrease here, then I increase or decrease over there. And quality matters, but so does flexibility and so does sustainability. And food is fuel, and it can really like be an effective way to shape our physiques how we want to. It's really cool, I think, from a science standpoint, like to see how training and nutrition, you can use those to really transform your physique or performance. but food is also culture and joy and gathering and emotional, like, you get an emotional response from different foods. And so recognizing it's a lot more than just fuel too, and that's okay.
I feel like also, I feel often I can see a correlation between food sensitivities and chronically under eating. Like a lot of clients I see, like when we are getting calories higher and we're getting closer to that optimized maintenance calories living there, suddenly like digestion is just on point and it's never been before. Suddenly you're not sensitive to this and this and that. So like there's definitely your body, when your body is under stress, it's also more likely to be sensitive towards different food types. If it's of course not something you've had your whole life, and but those sensitivities, that is, and I think a lot of people don't know that as well. Like, okay, let's try this, and most likely you will be able to have that and that and that and that. Or maybe not most likely, but definitely a good chance of that. So it's just, I think, just experimenting with yourself and what your body is capable of, and just like aiming for a body that thrives. I think that's something that all of us should have as a goal, because we don't, go through a whole life without having a thriving body. That's sad. So like aim for a thriving body, and then you can see how it actually is doing, like on all aspects.
Yeah, I think aiming for a thriving body is a really positive way to approach it versus like a fear-based approach of, I need to change my body, And so if you're aiming for a thriving body, then this is like a really exciting, fun experiment and process, and you can embrace the process of it, right? Versus like that outcome, because that your mind is always going to be adapting too. And so you might think, I'm going to be happy 12 pounds lighter, but when you're 12 pounds lighter, you're going to find other things that you don't love or that you want to change. And so just remembering, like, there's no arrival point to like loving your body. You have to really embrace the process of creating a thriving body, like Henrietta said, and then you're going to find joy in the process, and that's going to be exciting. And you'll be more able to recognize that like your body looks wonderful and beautiful in so many different, like at so many different weights and sizes and shapes. But if you can focus on making sure you feel your best first, then you will likely do the sustainable approach and be okay with the long-term plan. And that's where you're going to see the most success in maintaining your results too.
And I feel like that process can be really, really scary, but that's what we are here for. Holding hands and making sure that, this is the right track, just telling you that. So.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. I know summers are busy, so we really appreciate all of you jumping on, and let us know if you have any questions. We didn't get to a lot of questions today, because we were excited to talk about this, but we will get to those next time, and maybe answer some of those too, just like on the groups as well today and this week. So thanks for joining. Have a great Wednesday, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah.